Nobody expected the Bridgerton cast to struggle with their own show, but the moment the quiz began, everything fell apart. Lines they delivered themselves suddenly felt impossible. Iconic scenes completely forgotten. Even the simplest questions turned into chaos. One wrong guess led to another, and within minutes, the room was filled with panic, laughter, and some very confident answers that were completely wrong. Because this wasn't a normal trivia game. This was the Most Impossible Bridgerton Quiz. A challenge so brutal that even the cast of Bridgerton Season 4 weren't sure they could survive it. And the rules were simple but dangerous. 2 teams, 1 crown, and questions designed to expose who really knows the world of Bridgerton and who has absolutely no idea. Some questions look easy at first until you try to answer them. Some moments from the show feel unforgettable until your mind suddenly goes blank. And the final challenge, that's the one that breaks almost everyone. So the real question is this: can the Bridgerton Season 4 cast prove they are true experts of their own series, or will they completely embarrass themselves in front of the ton? Let the impossible quiz begin. Section 1. The quiz that should be easy, but isn't. The challenge begins with confidence. Everyone thinks this will be easy. After all, they lived these scenes. They filmed the ballroom dances, the dramatic confessions, the secret glances across crowded rooms. Remembering the details should be simple. But the first rule of the Impossible Bridgerton Quiz is very clear. Nothing is as easy as it looks. The cast splits into 2 teams. Friendly smiles, a little teasing, everyone pretending they're calm, but underneath the laughter, there's real pressure. Because losing this quiz means something far worse than just losing a game. It means proving you don't know your own show. The first round begins. General Bridgerton knowledge, the kind of questions that sound simple until someone actually has to answer them. The first question arrives immediately and the room goes quiet. In Bridgerton Season 4, Eloise makes a dramatic decision. She declares herself officially on the shelf, a bold statement in the world of the ton. But here's the question that suddenly stops everyone in their tracks. How old is Eloise when she says it? It sounds easy, too easy. Someone confidently says 20, another says 21. Someone else tries to calculate it based on previous seasons. Suddenly, people are doing math out loud. Ages from earlier seasons get mentioned. Someone remembers Eloise being younger than Benedict. Someone else insists she was 19 at the start of the series. The confidence disappears almost instantly. Now everyone is second-guessing themselves, because this is the trap of the quiz. The questions don't just test memory, they test details. Tiny details that most viewers would never notice, and apparently neither would the cast. But finally, after a few nervous guesses, someone locks in an answer. And just like that, the first point is decided, but there's no time to celebrate because the next question is even worse. Everyone remembers the romance in Bridgerton, the longing looks, the dramatic confessions, the unforgettable love scenes that made the show famous. But now the quiz digs deeper. What song plays during Anthony and Kate's first love scene in Season 2? Suddenly, the room explodes with guesses. Someone says it must be a classical version of a pop song. Another swears it was Miley Cyrus, and someone else insists it was Harry Styles. People start remembering the ballroom dance instead of the love scene. Someone mixes up the wedding episode with the confession scene. Every answer sounds confident. Every answer sounds wrong. And that's when the quiz host smiles because only one of them is even close. Moments like this reveal something surprising. Even actors who film these scenes can't always remember the music behind them. When you spend months shooting a show, some details blur together. But the fans, they remember everything, which means the pressure is now even higher. Because if the cast can't answer these questions, the fans definitely can. The quiz moves on, but now the energy in the room has completely changed. The easy confidence from the beginning is gone. Now it's a battle. The next challenge appears on the screen. A strange image, a close-up photo, no context, no clues, just a single very specific detail. A sideburn, that's the entire question. Whose sideburn is this? At first, everyone laughs. It sounds ridiculous, but the more they look at the image, the harder it becomes. The angle of the ear, the shape of the hairline, the length of the sideburn. Suddenly, people start studying the picture like detectives. Someone says Benedict, someone else says Anthony. Another person argues that the hairline looks wrong. Then one cast member suddenly points at the screen and the first round already shook the confidence in the room. Simple questions suddenly felt complicated. Memories clashed. People argued over tiny details that fans probably know by heart. but the cast still believed they had one major advantage. They remembered the dialogue. After all, they spent months learning those lines, rehearsing them, performing them again and again in front of cameras. Surely that knowledge would save them now. Unfortunately, the next round proves the exact opposite. The host introduces round 2. Fill in the blank. The rules sound harmless. A famous Bridgerton quote will be read out loud, but one word is missing. The teams must fill in the blank with the exact word from the original line. Sounds simple, until the first quote appears. Who needs fresh air when there is fresh blank? For a moment, nobody speaks. Everyone clearly remembers the line, the tone of it, the gossip-filled energy of the scene. But the missing word suddenly refuses to appear in anyone's mind. Someone confidently says tea. Another person says sweets. Someone else says air again, which immediately makes the room laugh. Because the truth is, everyone knows the line, but the exact word feels just out of reach. Now people start thinking harder. What does tea mean in slang? Gossip. Suddenly someone gasps, gossip! And just like that, the answer finally clicks. The correct line appears in everyone's memory at the same time. Who needs fresh air when there is fresh gossip? The first quote is solved, but the room already feels nervous because if that line was difficult, the next ones are going to be brutal. The second quote arrives almost immediately. For God's sake, Penelope Featherington, are you going to blank me or not? The moment the quote begins, people start laughing. Everyone remembers the tension in this scene, the frustration, the dramatic delivery, the awkwardness between the characters. But once again, the exact word is missing. Someone guesses court me. Another person says love me. Someone jokingly says touch me, which makes the entire room burst into laughter. The pressure is rising because they know the answer is something more official, something serious, something that completely changes the relationship between the characters. Then someone finally says it, marry. The line suddenly becomes clear again. Are you going to marry me or not? Correct. 2 quotes down, but now the cast begins to realize something terrifying. These quotes are not random. They are carefully chosen to test the most memorable moments in the show, which means the next one could be even more embarrassing to forget. And that is exactly what happens. The host reads the next quote slowly. Mother. What is a blank? Instant confusion. Someone says pinnacle. Another person repeats it. Pinnacle? Now everyone starts questioning themselves again. Did someone really say that in the show? Or are they completely inventing it? The uncertainty spreads quickly. People start laughing again. Some of them admit they barely remember the scene at all, but eventually the answer locks in by pinnacle. And somehow, that bizarre word is actually correct. Now the room feels slightly more confident again, but the quiz isn't finished with them yet, because the next quote is where things get uncomfortable. The host pauses before reading it. I want to be blank and blanked by you. Immediately, the room explodes with chaos. People start shouting ridiculous guesses. Someone says loved and supported. Another person suggests something much more inappropriate. Someone else jokingly says tossed and turned. The laughter becomes uncontrollable because everyone suddenly realizes something awkward. This line is much more intense than they remembered. Now the host offers a clue. Think slightly dirty. That only makes things worse. People start throwing out even more ridiculous answers, but eventually someone remembers the real line. I want to be seen and touched by you. The moment the answer is revealed, everyone reacts the same way. Shock, because they had completely forgotten how bold that line actually was. But the quiz still isn't done. The next challenge targets one specific character, Benedict Bridgerton, and this time the cast faces something even harder than remembering the words. They must also deliver the line in Benedict's voice. The quote begins, "My eyes search for you in every room I enter. My blank blanks when you are near." Everyone immediately knows what the line is trying to say. But the exact phrasing, that's another problem entirely. Someone suggests, "My heart stops," another says, "My heart beats," and people start arguing again. Then someone finally commits to the answer, "My heart beats when you are near." Correct. But the host reminds them of the extra challenge. They must now say the line in Benedict's voice. This is where things
By the time the final round begins, the mood in the room has completely changed. At the start of the quiz, everyone was relaxed, smiling, confident. They believed their experience on the show would make this challenge easy. Now, nobody is smiling anymore. Because the last round is famous for one reason: almost nobody survives it. The host slowly explains the rules again, just to make the tension even worse. 30 seconds. That's all the time they get. In those 30 seconds, the team must name all 8 official Bridgerton books written by Julia Quinn. No notes, no hints, no second chances, and the clock will not stop. The moment the rule is announced, panic spreads across the room, because suddenly everyone realizes something embarrassing. They don't actually remember all the titles. Some cast members have read the books years ago. Others only remember the stories that were adapted into the show. Some admit they only remember the characters, not the book titles. But now the pressure is real, because this challenge decides the winner. The host raises a hand. The timer appears, and the countdown begins. 3, 2, 1, go. Immediately, the chaos begins. Someone shouts, "The Duke and I." Correct. That's the first book. Another person quickly follows with, "The Viscount Who Loved Me." Also correct. 2 books already down. But now things slow down, because the next titles suddenly feel harder to remember. Someone nervously says, "An Offer from a Gentleman." Correct again. 3 books. But now the panic starts growing. Someone else blurts out, "Romancing Mr. Bridgerton." Another correct answer. 4 books. Halfway there. But now the timer is already halfway finished, and the remaining titles are much harder to remember. Someone tries to recall the next one and accidentally says, "Eloise at the Beach." The entire room bursts into laughter, because that is definitely not the real title. Another person shouts, "The Spy Who Shagged Me." Now everyone is laughing even harder. That's not even a Bridgerton book, it's an Austin Powers joke. But the clock keeps ticking. 20 seconds. Panic grows. Someone finally remembers another real title. "To Sir Philip with Love." Correct. 5 bucks. Now they only need 3 more, but time is disappearing fast. Another voice suddenly shouts, "When He Was Wicked." Correct again. 6 books. Now the room explodes with energy. They are so close, but the final titles refuse to appear. Someone tries to remember Gregory's story and blurts out something ridiculous. "Gregory can't find love?" More laughter, but still not correct. Another person suddenly shouts, "It's in His Kiss." Correct. 7 books. Only 1 left, but the timer is almost finished. Everyone starts shouting random guesses. "On the way to the wedding," "something about a wedding," "wedding something." Then, suddenly, someone screams the correct title. "On the Way to the Wedding." The timer hits 0 at the exact same moment. Silence fills the room. Nobody is sure what just happened. Did they say it in time, or were they too late? The host looks at the scoreboard, pauses, smiles, then reveals the shocking truth.